Hello and welcome to today's webinar. We're going to be talking about how franchise brands can use SEO and PPC to increase rankings and local leads. I'm one of your co-hosts, Erin Martin, and I'm the VP of Marketing here at Netsertive. I'm really excited to be joined by our Google rep, Aubey Moses. Aubey will be lending his expertise on consumer search trends in the paid space. And so today we're going to cover the benefits of doing SEO and PPC in a holistic way. And then we're going to cover off on a few of the latest trends in consumer and fran dev search. And then provide some really tactical best practices and tips on where to start. And while we built this agenda and content with a franchise home office team in mind, there's a ton of core concepts that can be applied for any multi-location business. I know that we also have a few auto dealers and franchisees on the call. And so I promise no matter who you are, you'll get some good stuff out of this today. And we don't have a live Q&A at the end. So if you guys do have any questions, just feel free to pop them into the chat and we'll be sure to do a personal follow-up after this. And before we jump in, just a quick note on Netsertive. We're a digital marketing company that uses technology to run better digital marketing programs. So whether it's on the fran dev or the franchisee side, we make sure that you have the partner, the workflows, and the execution to capture local leads efficiently online. We have been doing this since 2009, and I love everything about my role here. I get to spend my days marketing to marketers about marketing, and so it really doesn't get any better than that. So let's dive in. And just to level set on what we're talking about today, while SEO and paid digital are technically different disciplines and require a lot of different skills and execution, there are crossovers between the two where efficiencies can be gained from doing them together. I've seen so many marketing teams plan and manage their PPC and SEO in silos. And so today we're going to really focus on those specific crossovers in the strategy and execution between the two that you need to be aware of that can help you rank higher and capture more traffic and leads. And so just to orient ourselves and set the stage, we all know this, but again, for SEO, when we're talking about search engine optimization, just remember this is the techniques that help your website rank in organic search results, where on the pay-per-click or paid digital side, we're talking about when you pay to have your website show up. So at the end of the day, both of these are trying to do the same thing. You're trying to show up on a search engine result page when someone's looking for what you have to offer. And technically speaking, paid search ads can't affect your site's organic ranking, and your organic ranking can't affect paid, but how the two work together and whether you're taking advantage of those synergies can make a big impact. And so I'm going to pass it to Aubey, who's going to speak to the performance boost that can be gained when you do the two together and why that matters.
Thank you, Erin. Yeah, so I'm going to start off. Number one, I work in the Google Ads side, so please don't think of me as an SEO expert by any means, but I do know my fair share about Google Ads, so I do want to preface that. But I know that there's a lot of believers out there that SEO is the way to go, or Google Ads are the way to go, when, as Erin was saying, they work better when they're working together. So we actually ran an internal study at Google that showed basically the relationship between Google Ads versus SEO and how they work better together. So what we found is this eye-popping stat that 89% of visits to an advertiser's site from search ads were incremental to clicks on organic results. So that means that these visits wouldn't have occurred without having ad campaigns helping supplement their search engine optimization tactics. And so we're going to dive through in the next few slides about why this happened and how this happened. If we want to move to the next slide. Before I continue on, I do want to showcase what I'm talking about today. In case you're not familiar, obviously the top 3 spots here you can see are ads. And then the bottom one that's highlighted is actually the top organic spot. So I'm going to be talking about this a lot today. So I wanted to make sure that we had a visualization because I obviously want you to know exactly where I'm leading you. So we can move to the next slide. So over here, you can see another example of a search results page. I broke this out into 3 different categories. So the top organic spot over here in the red, the organic number 2 through 4 spots in the green, and then organic 5+. And these are basically lumped in so that you can see the value between each of these and the Google Ads relationship. If you want to move to the next slide, you can see the amount that Google Ads would incrementally affect your organic tactics. So let's just say you are the top organic search result. Google Ads in our study actually would show a 50% incremental increase in clicks from just having ads active on top of your top organic spot. And then if you look to the next tier, we found that, 82% of the organic 2 through 4 results, you would see an 82% incremental value add. And then for anything 5+, you would see a 96% value add. So if you think about it, if you're not doing Google Ads and you're showing up on the search results page at 5 or even further down the search page, you're missing out on almost double the amount of traffic that you could be driving if you were using Google Ads in tandem with your search engine optimization strategies. So we're going to go in the next slide and talk about kind of the why behind that. So if you look here on the left, I pulled some data of this research that we ran, and basically on smartphones, where your attention span goes to in an indexed form are obviously the top 3 paid spots, because that's the first thing that you're going to see. And then if you look at organic 1, organic 2, organic 3, it incrementally decreases in the amount of attention and value that you can probably add to your marketing strategy. And even if you get down to, if you compare organic 3 to the top paid search ad, you're only seeing about a quarter or 1/3 as many, eyeballs on that result versus the top paid ads. So the reason why I'm focusing on smartphones is because obviously, as you know, in this day and age, smartphones and tablets are the main drivers in traffic now. If you reverse this 10 years ago, it would have been flipped, desktop to smartphones and tablets. But you'll see in an example I have later on that obviously smartphones and tablets take up the lion's share today. So you want to help drive your strategies based on that fact. And then if you look over here on the right, you can actually see the heat map and where eyes track when they look at a mobile phone search results page. So as you can see in the top part, it's obviously very hot there. That's where everyone's attention goes to start off. And then as you slowly move down the page and scroll down, you start to lose some of the heat. And then if you even look towards the bottom half of that section, barely anyone goes there. So if you even think about it from just a logical standpoint and even my own personal standpoint, when I'm searching and I look at something on my phone and I'm scrolling past the 5th organic spot, I'm number one, I'm looking for something very specific. And if that's usually the case, I'm probably not going to find it at 5+. And I'm probably just going to put in another query to help narrow down what I'm looking for. So if you're showing up past 5, you're probably not doing the best job in that area. So you could find ways to help supplement that through ads or changing up your SEO strategy. And then just a nice stat here is 54% of view time is spent on average on the top 3 positions. So that kind of just reinforces the fact that you need to be towards the top of the search results page, whether it's through ads or search engine optimization. So we can move to the next slide. And then just to reinforce that even more, being the top, if you are the top spot on the ads, we're not just focusing on the benefits of just lower funnel marketing strategies and getting those conversions. Obviously, that's going to be a very important factor in your strategies, but you also have to think about the mid to upper funnel parts of your marketing strategy. What does the top spot do for you? It drives a better perception of your brand. So obviously in the world that we live today, perception is reality. And what we saw in our research was that the top spot is usually associated with being a well-known brand, being a popular brand, being a relevant brand. So if you are in a very competitive landscape, it's a great way for you to show up when someone's searching for, let's say, a plumber, and there's 1,000 other plumbers in the area. You want to be at the top spot there because someone might not call you, or they might not have even thought of calling your service or your company until they saw that and they think, hey, you know, this must be a reputable brand. It's at the top of the search engine results page. Let me see if they can offer the services that I need. So if we move on to the next slide, you'll start to see that obviously not just the top of the funnel, but even like mid funnel, where you're trying to help build and reinforce that brand reputation. You have brand reputation, advertising recall, unaided awareness, top of mind awareness. All these factors are helped just for being on the top spot. So you don't want to, obviously search is an amazing lower funnel strategy, but you can also expand your marketing strategy to attack the different parts of the marketing funnel to drive more conversions later on. So
awesome.
Back to here. Yeah.
Thanks, Aubey. And I think one of the main call outs that I hear you say in some of that is that if you're not in paid or organic, then you basically have an opportunity for improvement, because it means that someone else is going to take up that real estate and capture that shopper and take it to a competitor's site. So, okay. And another reason to do SEO and paid digital together is for program management and operational benefits. We know that franchise marketing is a team sport, and to do it really well, you need to get your franchisees and your sales team and vendors really operating off of the same playbook. And the easiest way to do that is to build a strong system and set of workflows that enables just that. This is one of my favorite quotes from James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, who says, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems, which is really the punchline here. If there's friction in your process or your systems, then you're not going to get your desired result. And really the biggest element that's going to impact your system and workflows and ability to do local SEO and paid well is your website. It's really the backbone to everything. And we see that the brands that are killing it in ranking high in both paid and organic are ones that have a simple and rewarding workflow in place to not only centrally manage their web presence, but also provide franchisees with a way to get involved with developing authentic and unique local content. And the way that your website and location pages are set up dictates a ton on whether it's going to be easy or hard for franchisees to get involved. And this is important because Google loves unique local content. You know, the algorithm sees it as more personal and relevant and rewards it with higher search rankings. So in this example, this is Rebath and Netsertive built out unique local microsites for each of the franchisees with the ability to easily update and contribute at the local level, which means that there's more pages with unique local content. They won't be duplicate pages, which can be a big issue. And then that local page structure that has all of the authentic, unique local content is going to help organic and paid rankings. There's also elements of the page that can be surfaced in the organic and paid placements, such as site link extensions, which basically takes people to a specific page of your site. And those help increase click-through rate because you're just giving another choice, another layer of choice and information that's being exposed. So basically giving them that more direct access to the information that they're looking for. So again, this is the harmony that can all be made possible by having that strong system that you have in place for your engine. One brand that I was talking to on my podcast last week was saying how SEO is really their bread and butter. And it's because they've built a system that makes it really, really easy for their franchisees to update and create new content. And so that's helped them contribute to thousands and thousands of pages that have unique local content on it that's just been built up over time. And so now that's just driving a huge amount of healthy leads for them. And it's not only that the system that they built, it makes it easy from a tech and UI perspective to get everyone involved and on that same page, but it's also rewarding franchisees because they know that they're actually getting business from these efforts. They can see the return. So again, just kind of stressing that importance of the system behind the efforts, and the execution can really make or break things. And then one other last big benefit I wanted to highlight is just the efficiencies that can be gained and the insights with deeper granular reporting. So this is one place where I think a lot of people miss the boat. So if you are doing this, kudos, because if you can see which paid keywords are converting best, this is going to help inform and refine your SEO strategy, and then vice versa. SEO reporting does not lie. It has a unique ability to really expose the person's intent. And so, for example, if there's like a double meaning in your industry or a keyword that's not applicable to what you have to offer, then that will show up in your SEO report as a non-ranking or non-converting keyword. So SEO reporting can also really help refine your paid campaigns and specifically help you nail your negative keyword lists, because those are so critical to reducing wasted ad spend. It's really easy to blow a lot of money on paid digital if you don't have a robust and constantly groomed negative keyword list. I've been there and done that. And so just hugely important to have really good negative keyword lists and intel. And then in addition, with granular reporting, you can also monitor the performance at the franchisee level on both sides. So then you have this data to be able to coach to the behavior that you're looking to reinforce. So whether that's, a certain ad spend or just helping support local content development, etc. And one more just quick example of how insights can help out. This one's specific to paid, but I think it's a good illustration of what can be done when you have hyper-local reporting at your fingertips. This is for a franchise brand where we ran a campaign, paid campaign for them. And when we dug into performance by location, we noticed that for a few franchisees, their display campaigns were performing really, really well. And they had a heavy mix of display advertising. So we went ahead and shifted budget from search to display across their entire network, all of the locations. And we went from a mix of around 60% search, 30 display to 20% search and 80% display. And when we did this, we reduced the cost per lead by 31%. And if you do some rough math, if you were assuming that, you've got 50 locations with $1,000 a month ad spend, that 31% reduction in CPL could, add up to almost 200 grand across the network. So it can be really powerful. And next, we're going to switch gears and cover some of the latest trends in search. And so, Aubey, I'll let you start that off.
Yeah. So I know that we have a very general audience here today. I pulled some information on kind of the home services category just to kind of show two things. Number one, what's kind of happening in the entire I would say scope of search, because a lot of the trends that are happening here are also applied to other verticals. And number two, I wanted to stress the importance of proactively planning, keeping your pulse on the macro trends, and making sure that you have a digital expert or digital marketing expert staying on top of this, whether that's in-house or whether that's through an agency partner. That's kind of the thing I want to harp on today. So if we look at the home services category in the latest search trends from last quarter, this is from internal Google data. You can see that in the top stat here, the change in ad depth compared to the previous year for January through March was actually down 3%. So ad depth is a metric that we use to basically gauge how many competitors or advertisers are in a search auction. So if this number is higher, then there's going to be more competitiveness for these search auctions. And if it's lower, then it's a better time for everyone to be in because you're not going to have as many people competing. But -3%, in my experience, that's not very, it doesn't really change much. It basically is like a pretty constant metric. -7% though, negative growth in overall queries. So that obviously that's a huge metric in terms of just sheer volume. So the amount of queries in the home services vertical went down. So that means less supply. If you look at the supply and demand, that means there's less supply, which means that the price point is probably going to climb, which you can see here on the final stat below. It's a 28% increase in CPCs versus the previous year. I do want to say, number one, I don't think that CPCs should be your end all be all. Like, you shouldn't be using that metric as a measurement of success, but it's a great directional metric to understand where the industry is and how everything is trending. So obviously, like, if you're paying higher CPCs, but you're seeing more conversions, keep doing that. But if I just wanted to showcase that it's getting increasingly competitive right now, and I'm going to talk through why that's happening. So if we go to the next slide, just a little bit more information on ad depth. You can see here kind of a breakdown. I know I was talking earlier about mobile and tablet. You can see how much more traffic it gets than just desktop computers now. So just reiterating that, but just kind of more of a breakdown of how the competitors increased over the years, and now it's slightly decreased. Now it's pretty stagnant. So this next slide, if we can go to it, this is what I'm going to spend the bulk of my time on today. It looks a little crazy, but I'm going to talk you through it right now. try to simplify it. So over here on the left, you can see queries. So that's just overall, as I said, that's the supply of queries for home services. And then on the right, you can see CPCs, and I'm going to try to help you understand the relationship and how things have changed, and how being proactive about your marketing strategy and really staying on top of macro trends can help you. So if you look at the green line here, this is 2019. This is pre-pandemic, when the world was great. World hunger was solved. We were all happy at this point. And you can see that the queries were, pretty constant. That was the normal at the time, right? And then you can see CPCs, they dip and dive and go up, depending on typical seasonality. Then you move forward to 2020, which is the yellow line. And here you can see the queries were pretty constant in January and February, and then March hit and the pandemic hit, and you see April, May, June, July, everything's skyrocketing in the amount of queries. And what you see on the right side with CPCs is it was very, very cheap. From March through September, you probably saw the cheapest CPCs Google has had since probably its inception. And this applies not just for home services, but it applies for all verticals. And the reason for this is obviously, like, for home services specifically, starting in April, May, a lot of people started working from home, and they said, hey, I'm going to be working from home at this point. I might as well start improving my new workplace, because this is where I'm going to spend 95% of my time. And then also the stimulus checks came in, and all the macro trends of trying to help the economy. So you have to understand that everyone's trying to improve their home, and they're willing to pay for that. But at the same time, everyone was very apprehensive about continuing to digitally market their business. So you can see that the competitors in here during this time period from March to September of 2020, the competitors pulled out. So it was basically getting the cheapest CPCs you could get, because there was no one competing with you in the ad auctions. So a lot of the advertisers that stayed with it and stuck with their digital strategy and believed in it, they ended up benefiting with super high efficiencies, and their businesses took off. And then later on in the year, in September, October, everyone started catching on. They're saying, hey, everything is working really well in the digital marketing space. Let me get involved in that. And as you can see through 2021, which is a red line, the competitors started increasing and increasing and increasing, which is driving up the CPCs because of increased competition. Queries stayed relatively the same. It actually dipped since 2020 in the latter half of the year. But obviously the competitors kept increasing, the ad depth kept increasing, so the CPCs rose. So now fast forward to Q1 2022, what we just experienced from January to March, you can see queries are starting to dip down. Everything is going back down, resetting to a new normal. as the world starts to open up a little bit more. And CPCs are still very high because there are so many people that are still trying to capitalize on the fire sale that we had back from March to September of 2020. So basically what I want to reiterate is that, number one, if you had someone that was on pulse of the macro trends in digital search, you could have capitalized easily from March to September in 2020. But also now it might even be more imperative for them to look at your marketing strategy right now and find the most efficient plays and make sure that they can hit on that right now, because as you can see, the CPCs are expensive. So what's the best, most efficient manners to go about your marketing strategy moving forward? So I'll leave you with that. Hopefully that helps too.
Yeah, that's some great insights on the consumer marketing side. And I'm going to touch a little on the Fran Dev side of things. Website leads from organic and paid continue to be a top quality lead source. And just like Aubey said, you know, given all that, competition online is really high. And so a few tips that we have is on the paid side, you have to have a mix of both broad and long tail industry specific keywords. And you can geo-target, but your volume is going to be a lot lower if you do that. So we often recommend to stay national. You know, candidates could also be looking to own multiple areas or be moving. And so it's nice to have that national blanket spread and make sure that you can get the volume that you need. And then when you're deciding on a budget, one way to do it is to actually build your budget backwards just based on your candidate goal and cost per acquisition. So for example, if you're trying to get 7 candidates from paid digital at $10,000 a cost per acquisition, then you'd be looking at a 70 grand annual budget is where you would be at. So it really varies so much on your name and your industry. It doesn't hang so much on the investment level of your franchise brand. And like we've said before, I think it's really easy here to waste ad spend. So it's really important to have either an in-house expert who has this knowledge and skills and can be able to do the research and inform a really good strategy and execution here, or partner, because this piece is hard to do with the complexity of search trends and the competition and budgets. And then on the organic side, it's all about leaning into what differentiates you and surfacing those stories and content. Also, lead portals do have huge SEO power, so making sure that you're at least showing up there. And then, of course, both on the organic and paid side, we've said it before, but you're only as good as your website and how well that converts. So if your website doesn't have compelling content and your form field has 80 fields to it, then you're going to be shooting yourself in the foot. Okay, so we have about a half hour left and we have 7 more tips for you guys. This section is the inspirational grab bag of ideas you can use. I think unfortunately there is not a silver bullet that we can recommend. On the marketing team, we always say that it's about lead bullets, not silver ones. So hopefully this one will give you guys a few ideas that you can just pick up and run with. And so first off, if you do nothing else, start with some keyword research or revisit your keyword analysis, because the keyword is the center of everything, because it represents the intention of what the person is looking for. And so the order of operation that we suggest to approach this strategically is to start with that keyword research and analysis, which I'll dive into in the next slide. And then this intel can basically help inform your paid strategy, because paid is a really easy place to test how keywords perform. You can easily turn them on and off and see what works and what doesn't. And then once you've done that and you have the intel and know what top performing keywords there are from your paid campaign, you can use that to inform your SEO strategy, because SEO is a longer haul and you have to do it right. So if you use the intel from your paid campaigns, you're going to have a ton of insight to inform your SEO strategy And then you also know that it's going to be sound because it's built on content and keywords that you know converts because you've tested it. And then all of that intel can be used to inform your website and content strategy. You can use it to build your topic clusters and start establishing that expertise and unique content around the different topics. And then, of course, you can use all of that intelligence to rinse and repeat that feedback loop. And so one note on keyword research. There's really no one right way to do this. I think a good approach is to revisit this every 3 months or so, and then obviously review reporting on an ongoing basis. And we recommend actually not starting with the keyword planning tool, but backing up and start with revisiting your buyer persona and just brainstorm, like your customer, what words and phrases do they use? Even if you've done a buyer persona exercise before, I think revisiting it with the context of search intent can be hugely helpful. And if you need some ideas, you can, listen to call center recordings to hear directly what words and phrases customers are using. Or on the Fran Dev side, you could get feedback from franchisee surveys to better understand either what they were researching or what they were looking for in a brand and a business. And so after you do that piece and just start with a customer, then you can decide or revisit what topics you want to be known for. So this is where, competitive intel and differentiation comes into play. You're thinking about what's that unique position that you can take in the market and lean into that. And so only, I think, after you visited kind of that brainstorming and mind mapping exercises, then you can actually jump into the keyword planning tools to get some specific ideas going off of that brainstorm list. And again, there's no right way to do it. You can also just use auto suggest in the search bar as like a really simple way to get started and get some ideas. And so just dive in, start getting some ideas, and note the search volume in competition and where you see the different opportunities are. If there's a keyword with 0 search results or something that's just completely dominated by a competitor, you want to stay away from those. But again, it's just looking at all the data with that lens of finding and creating unique content and ad copy that's specific to your customer and your niche and the questions that they're asking, and then owning those topics that you want to be known for. And Aubey, I think you also have some tips to share on the strategy front next as well.
Yes. And I will hit on a little bit more of what you were just talking about on the next slide. But for now, I do want to say my number one tip to start out with is on the paid search side is making sure that you always have an always on campaign for your brand terms. So I've worked with clients in the past where they don't believe in having their own branded search campaigns. I do believe, I'm a firm believer in this. Number one, from the incremental uplift that you saw from the previous slides, but also for 2 different reasons. So number one is that it's really honestly an efficient play to stay top of mind during the consumer journey. So you can see here 48% of purchasers switch between brand and generic terms at some point in their journey to a conversion. So you just want to make sure that you're staying top of mind for them. And honestly, when you're bidding on your own brand terms, it's the cheapest and most efficient play. So I would say at least have some type of budget allocated to it. And then the second reason is that you're protecting your brand from competitors. So if, say, I'm Applebee's, like if I'm not spending on my own branded terms and TGI Fridays is bidding on my terms, then they're going to show up on the top of the search results page if they're searching for Applebee's. And I don't want that. Like especially if you're in a super competitive market where they could go, they view all the companies at a similar level, to say what's the best, I don't know, plumber, or I don't know, Soul Cycle, and I don't know, Dry Bar, or I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that you can do. But what I'm saying is you just want to make sure that you protect your brand equity. And you might lose a potential customer if you don't protect your brand. So if we go on to the next slide, and this was hitting more on what Erin was saying, tailoring your message. So the benefits of Google Ads versus just search engine optimization is that you can control your message. So you want to tailor your ads to the, to the exact query, make sure it's relevant. So in this example, you see like Nespresso capsules, right? Over here, you can see different landing pages that might be relevant to this person that's searching this query. So you can tailor these messages and do it in a professional manner, and control that message versus, something that we would find in organic where the algorithm might deem it to be relevant to the query. And then also you can build out more extensions, as Erin was saying, like site links, structured snippets, all these different things to help create more real estate for you. So if you're already paying for that ad, you might as well get more bang for your buck and take up more real estate. And honestly, that's going to get the awareness portion up, where someone might scroll past, but they might see it now because it's so large on their screen. So that's my other rule of thumb for paid search is, if you're already paying for it, you might as well take up the most real estate that you can. We see better efficiency and performance as a whole in that area. So make sure you include all the extensions that you can. And then the third thing that I think the real benefit is including special offers. So having a call to action. If you are, I don't know, a retailer, you could have like a 30% off coupon for the month of May, or if you're trying to get leads, you could say, get a free quote today, or have some type of value add where you can basically get people to want to call or want to interact with your company. So that's what I have for you.
Love those tips. Awesome. And another tip that we have for you guys, which we've harped on, is not pouring water into a leaky bucket. So as marketers, we know that you have to have a website that converts, otherwise why send traffic there? And we know it has to be mobile. We know it has to load quickly and be built for conversion. But when it comes to converting local traffic, I think one of the common mistakes that we see is shown here. So I did want to call this out. This is an example of a poor conversion funnel, in that if someone's searching for your brand, they may see your location in Google 3-pack, and then they click on that link and it takes them to the home page. And so then they're trying to find their, local information. So they have to go to the location finder or search, and then after 3 to 5 clicks, the visitor finally finds their relevant info or calls to action. And so this is just basically, anytime there's extra clicks or someone waiting for a page to load, you're gonna lose people. Whereas a good local website conversion, you want that visitor to search for your brand, and then maybe they see you in the local Google pack, and then also on the first result of the results page. And when they click on that link, it goes to the locations page, and they immediately have the local relevant calls to action for that specific location. So it's 1 to 2 clicks to get to where they're looking for versus that 3 to 5. We're impatient human beings, and every click and every second matters to retaining our attention. And so I think you're also seeing kind of a theme here of just that importance between your website, location page structure, and then the impact that it can have on organic and paid strategies to be able to perform the best that they can. And the 6th tip that we have for you guys is to make sure that you digitize any marketing that you have in the physical world and turn it into the digital world. Because again, then you're just building even more great, unique local content, which is going to boost your digital presence and search rankings. And so this example is our team member, Maddie Park, and her family. They own a Men in Kilts, among a few other franchises in Philadelphia. And they attended their town's fall festival and handed out flyers with QR codes, all wearing their kilts. And then they used those pictures to post on social to boost them. They could have even, pitched a story to a local reporter or a news station to get some local pickup or an article written that way. And so I think it's just a really good reminder that Whenever there's something happening in the physical world or in local communities, it has to get translated to the digital world, because that content is gold to further boost your online brand authority, organic rankings, and then it's awesome content to use in paid ads as well. And we've got one more tip for you guys that Aubey has.
Yeah, I'll jump in. The last tip I'll leave you with today is to make sure that you are tending to your digital footprint and that your reputation online is sound, because even versus pre-pandemic, I brought up some stats here. Pre-pandemic versus now, people are now more likely, 31% more likely to check out your business Google listing than pre-pandemic. So obviously the pandemic has helped digitize a lot of things and accelerate that. We all knew it was going there, but now it's going there faster. So make sure that your brand and your reputation is sound online. Obviously, you can't change a lot of it, but you want to remove any spam or fix anything that you can. And then if you go to the next slide, just to reinforce this concept again, almost 87% of people, or actually 87% of people actually say that the online listing or online review will have some type of factor in influencing if they move forward with a business or not. So obviously there's varying degrees of how much it will sway someone, but almost 9 in 10 people will say that it will somewhat play a role in what they choose and who they go with in terms of services or a product. And then if you look here on the right, it's not supposed to be a plug for Google, but we are a pretty big portion here. But what websites would you most likely turn to discover and choosing a local business? We are there, but I do see benefit in spreading the wealth, going to Yelp, using social media, using industry-specific sites. All these different mediums are ways to reach out to potential consumers or customers across the whole digital landscape. So while there is value in Google, I do want to say there's also value in other areas to make sure that your presence is felt in other areas, because realistically speaking, we're not the only site that people go to. So make sure that you plan out that strategy and execute.
Love that. It's all about knowing where your audience is and being there. Awesome. Well, thank you, Aubey, for your time and expertise. And thank you to everyone who attended. I know, again, we didn't have time for questions. So if you need any help figuring something out with your digital marketing roadmap or have a question, it's literally what we live and breathe every day, and we would love to help. There's going to be a link to book a meeting with us in the chat window. And I'd also love to connect with you on LinkedIn. You can easily scan this QR code. And if you're looking for any more digital marketing inspiration, definitely check out our podcast series, The Art of Franchise Marketing and the Multi-Location Marketing Leader on netsertive.com. And thanks again to everyone. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day.